Hello and welcome to the People First weekly webinar. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Todd Hendricks, and today we are going to go off script a little bit and we're going to go into story time with Todd. Not really my story, but I'm going to talk about my friend Andy. And my friend Andy and I had a conversation over the weekend, and he is a senior leader. He is a senior engineer, and I'm not exactly sure which industry he is in because I know he's kind of dabbled in a couple. But we were just talking about his job, and he is a senior leader, team lead, and most of the people on his team are like half his age. So he's mid 50s, we'll say, and most of the people on his team are late 20s, early 30s. And his job as the senior engineer and team lead is to just make sure all of the other 6 to 7 or 8 people on his team are doing their jobs and getting the work done. Now, yes, everything has to go through him. He has to, meet all the deadlines and do all the checks and make sure everybody is doing everything that they're supposed to do. But he is not the one in the trenches getting his hands dirty necessarily. That's what the team is for. And his job is to manage a team, support them, make sure they're doing everything that they need to do. So we were having a conversation over the weekend, and just kind of a casual conversation between friends. And the topic came up. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to get out more." And I was like, "What do you mean get out more?" He's like, "At work, I've been in my office doing the things that I need and want to do, and I have not been getting out with my team, like checking in on them and just making sure they're doing the things that they need to do, and that's coming back to bite me in the butt a little bit." And I'm like, "Well, what's going on?" Because like all of a sudden Todd's leadership brain is turning on, and it's like, where do we go? And I said, "Well, like, just talk to me about what's going on." And he said, "Well, I knew probably 2 weeks ago that I should have been getting out of my office a little bit more because they're on site, they're 100% on site." And he's like, "I knew 2 weeks ago I should have been getting out, checking in at other people's offices, in the team room, just making sure that everything was going as it should. And I wasn't doing that. I kind of had these things in the back of my mind. Oh, I should get out there. Or, oh, I should go talk to so-and-so. Or, oh, I should check in on this part of the project." And it was just like, "Oh, but my list is up to here. So I got to get my list done, and I'll get to it tomorrow, or I'll check in on Monday or whatever." And so I just wasn't doing those things. And now my team is needy. Now I've got a bunch of things that they need me to do when I come back from the weekend. There's a bunch of things that have kind of come up that are now not necessarily problems or roadblocks, but issues that need to be addressed. And these are all things that could have just been touched and handled quickly and easily a week ago, but I didn't do it because I didn't want to get out of my office. And so now most of my day, Monday and Tuesday, is going to be putting out the fires, solving the problems, having the meetings, talking to the people, doing the things that had I just done a little bit each day 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have to even be thinking about this stuff now. And I said, "Oh, it's the balance of, being in the office versus getting out of the office and going to talk to the people." He's like, "Exactly, exactly." And I was like, that is the bane of leadership." He goes, "Yes, yes, I know." He's like, I like to have an open door policy where people can come in and talk to me about anything they want. Great. But, sometimes that's all I do is, people want to come in and talk, and then we don't get anything done because we're talking about stuff and kind of bleeds into other things." And I was like, "So it's the balance. It is absolutely the balance of leadership." And he goes, "Yep, exactly." So we just kind of talked about that, but that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today is the balance of leadership and finding the balance for you. Now, I know that some of you who are going to be watching this do not work on site. You guys are remote. And that's, kind of since COVID and 2020 hit, a lot of that has become remote work. So getting out and, just walking up and down the halls and checking in on people's offices and, poking your head in the door, that's not really a thing anymore. And you have to find ways to do that in a remote setting, which there are absolutely. And I know a lot of you have these, internal Slack messaging, emailing, whatever messaging system you have with your workforce. Those things are all very helpful and useful. So we're going to talk about two ways to do it. We're going to talk about brick and mortar on-site ways to do that. We're going to talk about remote ways to do that, because both of them are necessary. And I think the people watching this today are going to be falling into both of those camps. So let's start with the brick and mortar. My favorite way to do this is what I like to call water cooler conversations. So raise your hand. I know we're not in class right now, but raise your hand if you remember the days of the water cooler where, back in the corner of the office, you had one of those big jugs of water, and, you push the little thing and then glug, 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 it glugs down. You get a little triangle paper cup of water. And usually in an office setting, if somebody's standing at the water cooler, that's kind of their break time. They get up, stretch their legs, they walk around the office, they go get a cup of water. I know we all have Stanleys now and Yetis and all that, whatever, so we don't do that. But you get what I'm saying. You remember those days. And if you saw somebody that you were friends with in the office who was going over to the water cooler, you're like, oh, maybe I should take a break right now too. Let's go talk about, the game last night, or, oh, I went over to my sister's house over the weekend, or whatever it was. And you just check in with your work friends. Great. And so oftentimes, and I think you can kind of see this in your mind's eye from TV shows, movies, and your own personal experiences, where you get one person, two person, three, maybe 4 or 5 people kind of just start to gather around the water cooler. And that's perfectly fine. Everybody gets a break. They need a little time to decompress and just, talk with their friends. And yeah, okay, great. So as a leader, I love those times. Because what I get to do is I get to go over there and engage casually, not professionally. And that is what I usually would try to do all the time. I always try to engage personally and casually first before I go in with something professional. So this is what that may look like or sound like. I might walk up to my friend Andy and say, "Hey, Andy, how was your son's baseball game last night? I know you said you had to scoot out last night because the baseball game was at 6:00. So just wondered how that went." "Oh, yeah, he did good. He got a hit and then he struck out, but whatever it is, but it was a good game. The weather was nice. We saw some friends and family." "Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, awesome." Stop right there. Full stop. Sometimes that's it. That's all I do. I just touch base with somebody personally. I ask a question about something that they have mentioned to me in the past. I don't have to have any background knowledge. I don't have to know anything about it. I don't even have to care. And I know that sounds kind of harsh and callous, but I don't. I don't have to care. All I have to do is ask a question, let them talk. Everybody likes to talk about themselves and their family. And most people don't get the opportunity to do so. So as a leader, I'm going to just ask a question. "Hey, how was your son's baseball game?" Or "How was your daughter's gymnastic event?" Let them talk. Huh. All my response has to be as, "Oh, that sounds great." Or, "Oh, that's too bad they lost," or whatever it is. I don't even have to process the information. Just have to be there and be present. "Okay, great. Yeah. All right. We'll see you later." And then I walk away. That's it. I just walk away. And I'll go back to my office, or I'll go poke my head in somebody else's office, or I'll just stop somebody else in the hallway. And, "Hey, how was your trip over to see your mom last weekend? I know she was not doing so good, and you were sick, or she was sick, and you were kind of worried about her. Oh, she's doing better? Okay, great. That's awesome. Yeah, that's it." And then I walk away. What am I doing? I am investing in them personally, and I am putting money into their emotional piggy bank, so to speak. I am building up my own savings plan, because if my people, my direct reports, my staff feel loved, cared for, and supported personally, then professionally, that's a much stronger bond as well. Does that make sense? So, you kind of think about 2 jars. You have a deposit jar where you deposit into their jar, their piggy bank, emotional goodness, good things. "Hey, he checked on my kid's baseball game. He asked about my mom because she was sick. And now I am building up these positives in this jar." On the other side, I have a professional jar that I may need to make withdrawals from. Like, "Hey, can you get that report in early? So I need to take a withdrawal." But these start to even out with each other. So they can borrow from each other as well. Maybe professionally, I am really, really, really pumping them up. They've done a fantastic job, and man, I'm giving them all the praise. So professionally, that's great. And then they ask me for an extra vacation day, and I say no. Okay, that's all right. I still have money in the jar that balances each other out. Now, I guess maybe I should have done 1 jar instead of 2. But you get the illustration. You understand what I'm saying. So I like to do those sorts of things because then it just gives me background knowledge. And I do this all of the time. And I use it like in meetings as well. I'll be like, hey, remember, because like, so-and-so likes to ride motorcycles. And I just pull that out of there. It has nothing to do with the meeting, but everybody hears that I just said something personal about somebody in the meeting. And the person who I said that about, wow, Todd just remembered I like to ride motorcycles. Huh. Now they're paying attention. Absolutely paying attention. So you said, like, Todd, like, okay, let's go back to Andy. What does this have anything to do with Andy? Why, like, Andy had some problems. And so let's go back and talk about that. So my water cooler conversations give me that that emotional and professional accounting, so to speak, where I can make some deposits and make some withdrawals, but I have to make sure that there's a good balance in that jar, in that piggy bank that I can draw from and deposit in. So now, later on that same afternoon, I've already had one positive interaction earlier in the day. I was at the water cooler and we talked about baseball, we talked about gymnastics, I checked on your mom, all that stuff. And now later on in the day, let's say it's 3:00, I'm like, hey, how's that report coming along? Oh, I didn't get to that report yet. Okay, now I can hold you accountable in a professional and kind way. Say, okay, I know you're not there yet, but I really need you to focus on that and get that done. I need that to move to the top of your priority list for today, because you getting that report done today means we can pass it on to the next stage, and that has to stay on track. Okay. All right. Thank you. See what I'm doing? I'm smiling. Thank you. Because we got to pass it on to the next track. We got to get that done. Just smile when you say it. You can hold people accountable in a positive way. A lot of times people think accountability is negative. Oh, I'm being held accountable. And there's this negative connotation to that. Absolutely not. I would love to change the professional perception of accountability to something positive, because it absolutely can be positive. Being accountable is a professional attribute. I'm going to say that again. Write that down. Being accountable is a professional attribute. Whether you are being accountable to yourself, whether you're being accountable to your team, your company, your boss, your CEO, whoever, being accountable is a personal attribute and a professional attribute. So being held accountable is an act of professionalism. And it's okay to hold each other accountable. How many offices? Oh, we hold each other accountable here, and that's part of our professionalism, and you never do it. And you never talk about it. And nobody's ever held accountable. And all we do is grumble, murmur, and complain about each other. Why? Because we talk about accountability, but we never do it. Why? Because we're afraid of it. We think it's a negative thing. We think it's only something management can do. No, it is lateral. It is descending, ascending. It is all things. So holding each other accountable and holding people accountable is something that needs to be done. Now, you do have to have balance. You can't just accountable, because what am I doing to my ledger? I am draining my emotional balance that I have with that person. So I've got to intermix some of those positive things. Hey, how was Jimmy's baseball game last night, or the gymnastics, or whatever example that I was using? So I want you to think about that. That's one way that I like to have balance. I like to have some personal and professional balance. And, sometimes you just don't get that. But if you work at it and you make it a priority, remember what I've said, and you're going to remember that I've said this 1,000 times. Exceptional leadership can be done in short bursts of 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds. It takes me 20 seconds to check in on how Jimmy's baseball game was. It takes me 60 seconds to listen to you tell me about your visit with your mom out of state last weekend because she wasn't doing so good. Can I invest 60 seconds of my day into 4, 5, 6, 7 people? Sure. Because now I'm down 10 to 15 minutes for the day, but I've invested in 4 to 7 people. And now they all feel better about our relationship because I've done that. It doesn't take long to do, but it reaps huge benefits. Now let's go back to Andy. Had Andy gone out of his office a couple weeks ago and started just checking in with people. Now, is he going to check in with them personally? Sure. Is he going to check in with them professionally? Yes. Just like that second example that I used. Hey, I know it's 3 o'clock. I really need that report. Do you think you can get that done today? All right, that needs to be your focus. We really need to get that report done. Okay. Thank you so much. 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I held some professional accountability with my direct report. I got that ball rolling because it was stopped and I had to get that re-engaged. But now that is going to go over to this department, which it needs to go to. And now that ball keeps rolling downhill the way it should be. Again, I had to get out of me and Andy had to get out of our offices, talk to a couple people, and go back to my office. All right. So that's the brick and mortar way to do that. And personally, that's what I like better because I'm a people person. I like to interact. Like when you go to McDonald's nowadays, you can order your food through the kiosk. I pass that right up and I go right to the counter. I've even had one of the McDonald's workers say to me before, you can order from the kiosk. Yep, I'd rather talk to you. Oh, it's like shock. Like, oh, okay, sure, I'll take your order. Great, thank you so much. It's like we're losing this ability in our society to interact with one another. But I don't know. I'm built like that. I like to do that. So, anyways, now let's talk about this from a remote situation because I'm working with a company right now that is 100% remote. And I don't even think they have one employee in the same state. They're all they're global. They've got overseas employees as well. So it's like, man, I've got somebody in the Philippines, I've got somebody in South Africa, I've got somebody in Texas and Virginia and all these other places. Wow. Okay. I can't have a water cooler conversation there. I can't poke my head into their office door and see how they're doing. I can't just walk down the hallway and ask how Jimmy's baseball game went. Nope. But as a leader, and you know me, I love my lists. Here's one that I've got right here. Here's a list right here. Schedule it from 10 to 10:15 as the leader, as the manager, as the CEO, whatever. From 10 to 10:15, I am going to send 10 different Slack messages, emails, inter-office communication, whatever you use. And all I'm going to do for that 15 minutes is I am going to directly and privately message as many people as I can in that 10 to 15 minutes and just check on them personally. Hey, I know that you guys had a tornado go through your area recently. Is everything okay with you? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Hey, I heard whatever, I heard you mention that your daughter has a gymnastics competition. I was wondering, did that go well? Okay, fantastic. Same thing with your mom. It can be a simple message. Now, if you have zero business attached to those messages, then they're authentic. What I would discourage you from doing is combining the two, a personal and a professional, because then that feels like you're being sneaky. Oh, he's just asking about my mom so he can really check and see if I got the report done. Jerk. Such a jerk. Yeah. Or he doesn't care about Jimmy's baseball game. He's just making sure that he can get that report over to the next department, and he's using my son's baseball game to just weasel his way into my day. That's probably how that's going to be perceived. As a leader, does that take double time? Yeah, man, but if I just include both things in the email, I can knock them both out. Yeah. Don't do it in a way that's authentic. And if you just send the first message only, how was Jimmy's baseball game? And then that's it. Great. Come back an hour later with the report question. That's okay, because then you're going to be seen as more authentic. And you've made a deposit in the jar. So then when you have to ask for the report, you can make a withdrawal from that jar. You've still got money in the jar. All right. Whatever you need to do, it doesn't take time, but it does take intentionality. Last year, or maybe even it was earlier this year, my two favorite words with life, business, all things are intentional and purposeful. Intentional and purposeful, whether they be relationships, work, hobbies, grocery shopping. You know what? Actually, that's funny. That just came to mind, but that's a great example. All of us have gone grocery shopping without a list. You got your grocery list or whatever it is. You go grocery shopping without a list, you spend a lot of money and come home with a lot of stuff that you don't need, right? Yes. But if you prepare your grocery list before you leave the house, okay, these are the things that I need. These are the things that I'm going to buy. This is what I need to look for. Then when you go to the store, you get what you need and you're done. It's usually faster, more efficient, and you spend less money. And you don't wind up with like a bag of Oreos. Or maybe you do. Maybe it's on your list. But be purposeful, be intentional. So can you as a manager spare 15 minutes? Let's go down to 10. Can you as a manager, CEO, owner spare 10 minutes a day to invest in your people? Yes. And if you say you don't have 10 minutes a day, call me. This is something that I can help you with. I will help you find 10 minutes a day because it's vital. It's important for not only the health of your employees, but the health of your company as well and your organization. So find ways to do that remotely. So you're going to send 10 emails to 10 different employees. How was Jimmy's baseball game? How was your daughter's gymnastics? How was your mom? I heard she wasn't doing so good and you went to go see her. Ask those questions. Then that gives you those deposits that you can withdraw from later when maybe you do need to hold somebody accountable or ask them for work or say no to their extra vacation day right before Christmas break or whatever it is. You've got some things in the jar that you can draw from because you've already got deposits in there. So let's go back to Andy. We're going to talk about Andy again. So now what is Andy doing? What's today? Thursday. So Andy, Monday and Tuesday, was putting out fires because that's what he knew he was going to have to do. And those putting out those fires is kind of taking things from the negative and bringing them back into some sort of balance. Now, let me ask you, what does Andy need to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and probably a couple of days next week for a couple of weeks following? Yep, things got down to the negative. Things weren't going so good. Had to put out some fires, brings things back up. What does Andy need to do continuing? He continually needs to invest in his people, check on his people, look at things that he needs to hold people accountable for, which is not a negative because professionally, being accountable is a professional attribute. So do that thing. Be accountable to yourself, to your team. If you hold yourself accountable, nobody else has to do it. Right? Think of, man, that goes through all areas of life. If you hold yourself accountable for how you are as a spouse, then your spouse doesn't have to hold you accountable. If you hold yourself accountable for how you eat and the amount of junk food that you eat, then your doctor doesn't have to tell you that you have high blood pressure and you need to lose some weight. If you hold yourself accountable for your time, then your kids don't have to say, Daddy, I never get to see you anymore. When do we get to play? Holding yourself accountable is a professional attribute. And if you do it for yourself, other people don't have to do it for you. But if other people do have to do it for you, you can't resist that. You have to take your knocks if you're not doing it correctly. Yep, you're right. Absolutely. I am behind on that report. I apologize. That's my fault. I will fix it. Yes, I have a reason for why, but it doesn't matter because the deadline is still 3 p.m. for the report. I need to make that happen. I'm going to make that my priority this afternoon. I apologize. That's another thing that I think we have lost professionally in, I don't know, the past 5 or so years is I think we have seen on social media, in the news, a lot of places where humility and ownership is no longer a trait that we see demonstrated. What we see is doubling down and getting louder on what we think, what we feel, instead of being humble, taking ownership and accountability for our own actions. Quick story is one of the people that I was working with, I won't say her name just in case she's watching, had a meeting where she was going to receive some constructive adjusting feedback on performance. And she knew this meeting was coming. So before that meeting, I was like, hey, great. Can you and I talk about that privately? And she was like, okay. And I was like, how do you feel going into this meeting? And she was like, not great because usually I get a little mad and feisty about this and I don't like getting feedback like that. Okay. And I said, is that just a personal thing? She's like, oh yeah, like my husband, like anytime he gives me any sort of feedback about anything, I get all up in his junk about it. Okay, fair. Great. Here's how I want you to handle this meeting. And don't do it for yourself, do it for me. She's like, okay. I was like, going into that meeting, you know you're going to get feedback about your performance that's not positive, correct? Yes. I said, all right, I want you to beat them to the punch. What do you mean? When the meeting starts, I want you to be the first one to kind of have an opening statement, so to speak. You know you're going to get adjusting and constructive feedback about your performance. So what I want you to do is be an open book. Say, hey, you know what? I know what this meeting's about. I want feedback so that I can grow as a person professionally. I want to do my job better. So I am really, I guess, looking forward to whatever feedback that you have that I can implement to make myself better because it's going to make me better for the company. And she was like, Todd, that's not usually how I handle those things. I know. I know. Do it for me. Don't do it for yourself. Do it for me. Will you do it for me? Okay, you will? Great. Thank you. So she did. And then I checked with her the next day and we kind of had a follow up. And I was like, so how'd the meeting go? And she was like, Todd, that was probably one of the best meetings I've ever had. And I was like, okay, like why? She's like, I did what you said. I got my mind kind of switched around where I was open to feedback. I wasn't going to be offended. I wasn't going to be personally hurt by the things that they said because they weren't saying those things to hurt me. They were saying those things to grow me. And once I kind of wrapped my mind around that, then I was inviting the feedback. And then they were much more willing to give me the feedback because I was open to it. By the time we were done, like we were laughing together, joking together. It was all great. And man, like that was a really positive meeting. Awesome. Awesome. How do you feel today? She's like, actually, I feel really good because they gave me good suggestions that I didn't think about and I can implement those. Huh. Awesome. Now, the cool thing about this meeting is I also had a meeting with the managers that had that meeting with her. And I was like, hey, how'd that meeting go? And they were like, it was amazing. We were kind of like a little nervous going into it because it's not typically how she reacts, but like it was a fantastic meeting, super positive. We, had some plans put in place and like it was great. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Mindset. Just change your mindset. So now a bridge has been built. And in that emotional jar, they've made some deposits. And the person who is being held accountable made their own deposits in the jar as well. It's a two-way street, and it worked out fantastic. So back to Andy. So we're going back to Andy. So Andy, I'm going to check in on him this weekend and see how things are going for him. But I know he's good at what he does. He is an excellent leader. He is an excellent manager, and he just needed to get out of his chair, walk down the hall, and do some of the things that he knows that he needs to do. But sometimes those personal checks, the question about the baseball game, the check about, hey, how's your mom, whatever, allows you to have the accountability conversations later. And that's really important because if your people only feel that you care about them for work, that's going to be kind of a fragile relationship. But if people think that you care about them personally and professionally, kind of the total person, they're much more likely to work hard for you and work with you even when things get hard. So I hope you have found this helpful. I hope this is a good topic that you found interesting and that you can implement in your own day. If anything like this comes up in your business, your organization, corporations, whatever it is, I would love to have conversations with you about this. So if you are watching this now and you're like, man, Todd, that sounds awesome. I wish I could do stuff like that in my business, my organization. You absolutely can. And I can help you do those things. So hit me up in the comments. I would love to hear maybe some stories about what things you are going through, or maybe some examples of what we talked about today. So have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you found this helpful. We'll see you next time, everybody.